Welcome, everyone. I would like to call our Governance and Priorities Committee meeting of Monday, June 3rd to order at 5 p.m. And I would like to take a minute to extend sympathies to the Mann family on behalf of council and the town for the passing of former Mayor Lorne Mann. Lorne spent 18 years on council, which is quite a lengthy time these days. And as many of you know, he was very passionate about Peace River, wanted to start or make Peace River sort of a cultural hub of Alberta. So he was involved in several things that way. I know he was also involved in the canoe club and things on the river. And we know that his interest extended to making sort of a public-private park at the south end of town, and to keep the area as pristine as possible. So our sympathies to the Mann family, and we'd just like to have a little bit of reflection here for a moment or so. So thank you for that. And I understand funeral services for Lorne Mann will be happening this coming Saturday. So we have the agenda in front of us. Are there any additions or deletions? Councillor Ford?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I had emailed administration and council a notice of motion that I'd like to have read into the agenda tonight. It is on a time-sensitive nature dealing with public safety and public security.
Okay, that would be under, I'll put it under new business. Oops, actually, new business item 5.
Thank you.
Okay, any other additions or deletions?
Sorry, I have none, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, all those in favor of the, well, somebody could put a motion forward for the, Councillor Good.
I'll move the agenda as amended.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion? It is carried. Thank you. Okay, we have the minutes, the May 6th Governance and Priorities Committee meeting. You've had a chance to review those minutes. Any edits? If not, maybe someone would put forth a motion for consideration. Deputy Mayor?
I move that council adopt the minutes of the May 6, 2024 Governance and Priorities Committee meeting as presented.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor? It is carried. Thank you. Comments from the public? Not yet. Presentations. Okay, so we're going to have a presentation tonight from the Town of Peace River Economic Development Committee, and Lane Gardner, committee chair, is coming up to tell us what's been happening. If you just turn the mic on red, you're going to need.
So thanks, Mayor Mazur and council for having me. So I had asked Kayla, and I can't clarify the last time that we had a presentation. Last time I have in my calendar was August 14th, but I believe that perhaps somebody else from our committee presented to you guys after that. Does anybody recall that date? So if there's some duplications, I apologize, because my last presentation was the 14th. So I was just going to kind of give you guys a bit of a highlight from that time frame. So some of the things that we're continuing to work on, the rural renewal stream. So to date, we've had 34 businesses approved of the program, 161 employees that businesses have requested, and 79 endorsement letters have been sent out on that. So we're continuing to see success with that program. The business grant program, of which there was $50,000 allocated in the 2024 budget. Intake one, we had 6 eligible applicants with a total of just under $24,000 being awarded. Intake two closed the 29th. We received 2 applicants, which haven't been reviewed yet, so I'm not sure if they're eligible or what the dollar amounts will be to be awarded. So far, I think that considering that we're only halfway through the year, we'll obviously be able to award the money in that budget fairly easily, which is a good thing. I think that circulated was our work plan. So we had a few changes on our committee. Gail Walton, who was the vice chair, her term had ended, so she didn't renew. We had a couple of new people join, Noah Laverne and Kate Tice both joined. So of course we had to change kind of people's their champions, who was responsible for which category or whatever. So that's there. Obviously, we had updated this work plan some time ago at the start of the year, so those changes are already reflected. The only changes on there were just where the new individuals fit into the strategic priorities. So that was done. So we're excited to have Kay and Noah join, both young entrepreneurial spirits in Peace River. So it's nice to see that next generation of individuals getting involved with the community and helping us out. You guys also received a copy of the investment attraction strategy. So we worked on that. We've been working on that for some time with Ballard Group. There's a few tweaks left to do, but we're fairly close to the final version. So of course, this was the study that they did to, you know, kind of what does Peace River have to offer? What are our strengths? What are our weaknesses, areas of opportunity, things like that. Not going to read through the report. You guys can read that at your leisure, but it's all there, pretty comprehensive, identifying some of the strategic plans that we could follow. So obviously the next steps will be putting a plan in place on how we can pursue those opportunities. Other things that we're working on, so we had the job fair last year, end of September. We're working on it again for this year. So we've applied to the Alberta Labor Market Partnership Grant, which would provide us funding to put on the job fair again. We're also working with the Alberta Chamber of Commerce. They've got monies available as well, so that we can partner with them to get some money through that stream as well. So hopefully we have a good source of funding that we can kind of make it bigger and better and have a little bit more appeal with it. Some other things that we've done, so back in April, I attended the EDA conference with councillors Shannon and Carr. So Kananaskis, we had gone down Economic Development Association meeting in Kananaskis. Overall, I think it was a good meeting, some really good speakers, some really good ideas. My takeaway from that meeting was that Peace River continues to be underrepresented throughout the province. However, we're working really hard to make those changes. So I think it was a good thing for us to be at in conjunction with the different meetings that we've been to over the last little while. Because of course, if we're not out there singing the praises of our community, who is? So kudos to Councillor Shannon and Carr for being there and doing their part to kind of spread the good word about Peace River area. And obviously I'll continue to do that as well on our behalf of the EDC. So in saying that, and again, some of this may have been spoken about already, but we have been busy, or I've been busy over the last handful of months, spending a lot of time on the road through the EDC and in conjunction with the chamber, kind of working as wearing 2 hats at the same time. Obviously, it's a perfect opportunity for me to do that with the Chamber of Commerce channels. And so, of course, we've had the opportunity. We had Grow in the North in February. In the fall of last year, I was in Edmonton for Political Action Day and MLA dinner. I did that again this year. So we've done 2 of those in the last 6 months. Again, not necessarily directly EDC, but again, with me being there as a representative of both organizations, it gives me an opportunity to kind of get the word out there for our community. At those meetings, you know, certainly the one in the fall, We spend a lot of time talking to anybody that will listen to us about the situation in Peace River in regards to homelessness and kind of the dire straits that we're in. And I know that Councillor Ford, that's one that you work on a lot, and Councillor Boychuk and everybody else, it's a concern that's close to heart. So anyway, that's one thing that we talked about. Our most recent one here this spring when we were in Edmonton, obviously with the talk of nuclear power in Alberta coming to the Peace Country, that was our opportunity to speak with couple of MLAs and had an opportunity to speak with the premier and stuff. So again, we're still advocating for Peace River, for projects, and for, again, just the attention to come to our area and try to keep the word out there. So, yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell of what we've done over the last handful of months since you guys had a presentation last.
Busy by the sounds of it.
I guess so. Yeah, something wrong with that. So, yeah, I don't know if anybody has any questions for me or.
So I guess, well, for this Ballard investment strategy or investment attraction strategy, is there anything that totally surprised you there or you
No.
hadn't really thought about before?
I mean, I shouldn't say I'm not surprised. I mean, obviously there's some information that you don't think about all the time. There's nothing that pops to my head immediately as a piece that was like, well, that was a real kind of earth shattering or groundbreaking piece of information. I think a lot of it is just, you know, things that you don't think about all the time. Obviously it's a lot more focused, which sometimes we miss the focus part of things because you're kind of trying to do all things for all people. So, yeah, I think it's pretty comprehensive. I was involved with Northern Sunrise County's one that they did with Deloitte, so a very similar thing, just with a different company. There's a lot of overlap between the two of them. So, I mean, I guess the nice thing is that they were the same. The bad thing obviously is that two different municipalities have them done, but I guess at the end of the day, the information is there and so I would, now the next thing is just to figure out how to work with it and utilize the information that comes from that report. I mean, the big thing that they've kind of focused on 4 areas that they figure are areas of opportunity for our community. None of them should come as a surprise: food and retail expansion, vertical farming, lithium mining, and hunting. And so yeah, I mean, all I think are industries that make sense for this part of the world. The key is how do we expand on those things beyond what we're currently offering in the community to at least make it worth the while, right? So.
Great. Counselors, questions? Counselor Ford?
I should actually know the answer to this already, but how many, or when is your next intake for the grant for downtown?
Oh, for like the revitalization grant. So just closed, intake 2 just closed. Somebody want to help me for intake 3?
July, beginning of July would be intake 3.
And how much do you have left to,
Well, so there was $50,000 that was in the budget for 2024. We've already awarded just about 24,000. We have a couple of applicants that were part of the intake 2. So I don't know how much those, I haven't seen the information, so I don't know how much money was requested there. So I mean, we'll be, you know, well over halfway through for the first 6 months of the year, right? Well, not quite. I guess intake 3 comes in July. So theoretically, we should have over half of that amount awarded by the end of June. So I guess the first 6 months, yeah.
and the last question is just off the top of your head, I don't need exact numbers, but on those applications to date, how many of those have been security related, or do you know?
One.
One? Glad to hear.
One.
Okay.
I didn't think I know that answer because that came up in the last one, actually. It was in our last intake, yeah. So I did know that answer without Alicia helping, but I'm glad she's here. to help.
We've been working with other businesses, so you got more coming.
Yeah, no, and I'm sure there is, right? So, yeah.
Counselors, other comments, questions? Well, good luck and thank you for all your work and traveling around talking up Peace River.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got told at one of the healthcare attraction retention seminars that we shouldn't concentrate so much on our rural aspect, but more on the amenities that we have here that come and have a good life sort of thing. So whatever that might mean. And this was talking like healthcare peoples.
And I think it's right. I mean, obviously, we do have a good quality of life here. So I mean, there's no reason for people not to consider it. And certainly the message we've been saying at our political action day and our MLA dinners and stuff like that, there's a lot of talk about investing in rural Alberta. And so, you know, Alberta is more than Edmonton to Calgary corridor. It's not Grand Prairie, it's not Lethbridge, that's not rural Alberta. So despite the talk from our MLAs and members of the provincial government, that to me isn't investing in rural Alberta. So of course, you know, no disrespect to those individuals, but you're right, Mayor Manzer, just, you know, again, the quality of life, that's what we've been saying. You know, how we get government, our provincial government to support people looking at rural Alberta. Again, Alberta is calling. I remember the one meeting I said to one of the MLAs, Northwestern Alberta is calling. It's not Alberta's calling. Quit the Alberta's calling campaign. People are already moving to central Alberta and southern Alberta. It's how do we get those people to come up to our part of the world? I appreciate that the provincial government can't pick just one part of the province, but really the message needs to be more so than Alberta's calling. You need to look at where there's opportunities. And I think obviously everybody knows what I do for a living. From a real estate perspective, you know, you talk about Alberta's market is on fire. Peace River isn't on fire. It's not horrible, but it's not on fire. So if you're still talking about relative affordability throughout the province, again, why is that message not being played out? And it's not just Peace River, there's many communities that could apply to that. Why is that message not being spread? And we just continue to put all these people into Edmonton and Alberta, or Edmonton and Calgary and Red Deer, just doesn't make much sense to me. So anyway, there's a narrative there too. Obviously with our elected officials, I think that's the narrative, and continuing to kind of push that there's opportunities. They just need to make sure that they're taking advantage of them. So.
Well, thank you, and good luck with the rest of the committee doings. And I'm sure that the two new committee members will add different aspects to the discussion as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you.
Good, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, our next item is review of bylaws and policies, and we have the reserves policy amendment with Mr. Mugford.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On March 4th, 2024, Council directed administration to draft changes to the reserve policy to bring policy in line with the town's current fund accounting format. Administration has drafted the revised policy and included in those recommendations. So, in short, we've changed our accounting system to have 5 funds within the town's general ledger. So the tax supported general fund, the water fund, the wastewater funds, the storm sewer fund, and the solid waste fund. So we want a reserve structure to match those funds so that we're not cross subsidizing between different customer classes. So the proposed changes included in the updated policy include the creation of dedicated water, wastewater, storm sewer, and solid waste reserves. So these reserves will be funded by the accumulated surplus resulting from each fund's performance. Within the tax-supported capital reserve, we want to break that up and have separate reserve for buildings and engineered structures and vehicles, machinery, and equipment. With the idea being that your buildings and engineered structures typically have quite long useful lives from an accounting perspective in multiple decades, whereas your vehicles, machinery, and equipment tends to be amortized over a shorter period of time. So for the purposes of planning your capital replacement of those asset types, you want to lump those assets into their respective groupings. We also are proposing the creation of a disaster recovery program reserve. So in the event that there was a disaster that the town was in a position to be able to apply for provincial funding, we need to make sure that we have a reserve available to cover the town's share of that request. Also, we're proposing the elimination of the mill rate stabilization reserve. Initially, when this was brought before council in March, we had also eliminated or proposed the elimination of the Safe Communities Initiative. But a couple of councillors have expressed interest in leaving that reserve as it was. So there's no changes proposed to the dedicated reserves. All of the changes that are being proposed are to the discretionary reserves. So this council did discuss this back in March. It was part of a a separate discussion around the transfer reserves at the time and bringing our reserve structure in the financial statements in line with the existing policy. But we also use that as an opportunity to get some feedback, so we want to bring this back before council now for any additional discussion around this prior to bringing this back for review and approval. Thank you.
So, just, can you refresh my memory a little bit about the mill rate stabilization reserve? Because I know this council in its first year made use of funds from that to, decrease or keep the mill rate 1 or 2 points lower.
So again, that type of reserve is basically the theory of it is when times are good, you tax more, and when there's costs, when there's cost pressure put on the budget, you can use that as a way to reduce the impact on ratepayers. But if it's not being used in that manner, if it hasn't been funded in the years when times are good and then drawn upon when they're not, there's not a whole lot of point in having it in the budget in the reserve structure as a source of funding as a reserve that's not actually being utilized.
So it just makes it perhaps a little more clear as to the tax might have to go up because that's the situation that year. There's no draw from previous year's tax, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, without having the reserve funded and being used in that manner, you do potentially subject your ratepayers to more volatility in the mill rate.
Thanks, Councillor Good, and then Councillor Carr.
I think the quality of that is they also get a more accurate picture of the reality, because a lot of times people look at their tax rate either going up or down, and if it was stayed the same, but the amount went up and you just funded it from a reserve, you may not have that reserve to use later on for any other purposes or whatever. So it's kind of a, how would I put it, smoke and mirrors, in a way to, I mean, that's not really the purpose behind it, but it does kind of disguise sometimes or muddy the waters around what the realities are as far as your economics. And I think one of the other things I wanted to bring up was that in the, you talk about the cross subsidization between taxpayer and the utility customers. One of the arguments for going to for example, the water rates, as they were supposed to be self-liquidating or self-managed and everything else, and not subsidized by taxes. And I think there was a belief on a lot of people's part, well, okay, let's just say that's $100,000 for sake of argument. Then taxes would, all things being equal, be reduced by that $100,000. And they probably would be if there weren't other factors that come in. The one thing I like about doing it the way it's being done now, where those things are supported directly, is again, there's no confusion as to where the dollars are or where the dollars are being placed or where the dollars are being used. And I think with the cross subsidization, there was kind of a bit of lack of clarity around what dollars were being used for what services. So I like this way of approaching it. I think it makes it clearer and more accurate going forward.
Councillor Carr?
You mentioned the Safe Communities Reserve. What exactly does that fund?
So the Safe Communities Initiative, its purpose of it is to fund public safety initiatives, and the source of funding for it is the proceeds from traffic enforcement initiatives.
It was set up when Peace River had their, what do you call it? Photo radar. So that's where the proceeds were to go, and it was to be used for educational opportunities on your safety for the most part, and got rid of photo radar. So I think it's kind of in a stagnant account.
Yeah, there hasn't been contributions to it since I've been here the past couple of years. If I may, just in regards to the comments from Councillor Good, one of the things that you'll note under the proposed changes to the discretionary reserves is Under capital, water capital, wastewater capital, and storm sewer capital, we have the comment to have the balances of, as directed by the utility rate model. So, and it hasn't come before council yet under the new version, but we have been working on a utility rate model, which dictates what we should be contributing to our reserves so that we can meet our future capital replacement needs. So, rather than putting in there a targeted balance of X amount, which, you know, at this point would be a very large number, which, you know, isn't achievable in the short term. We're directing the targeted balance to what, you know, or what our model says we should be having in those funds. Also, I'll point out that for the disaster recovery program reserve, we put in the targeted balance of $200,000, which had a, you know, 90% from the province, 10% from the municipality. That would kind of be the funding for the first, you know, $2 million events. The reality of the situation is that if something significant was to happen in the town, we've seen in other jurisdictions where they had to use that disaster recovery program. It's been a significant amount more than that the claims have been for. So it may be something that in the future, councils may want to allocate an additional balance to that reserve. But, you know, we also have to be conscious of how much of the burden for funding that reserve we're putting on our current taxpayers. So if we wanted to allocate, you know, $40,000 a year over 5 years, that would be an expense in our current, in each of those years' budget to fund that reserve. So just, again, thank you for that comment, Councillor.
That 90-10, it changed just within the last few years, did it not? Yeah. Okay, thanks. Councillor Ford?
Yeah, just in regards to that Safe Communities Reserve, because that, like Mayor said, that was originally funded by some of the revenues coming from Photo Radar. But since we got rid of Photo Radar, we still have traffic stops with the RCMP and if we had a peace officer. So a percentage of those traffic stop tickets still are revenue to the town. Is that not also being put into this reserve?
That has not been the practice. The relatively small number.
Yeah.
Of revenue generated over the past couple of years has just been going into general operating, which is a tiny offset to the cost of providing those services.
Any other points? Would someone care to put forth a motion on this topic? Very good.
Okay, I'll move the council direct administration to bring the draft reserve policy amendments to a future council meeting for consideration.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor? It is carried. Thank you, Mr. Mugford.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, next up, we have unfinished business and we don't have any. New business, first item, engineering and infrastructure department rebranding discussion with Mr. Fisher.
Good evening, council. So it's really loud. Is that better? That's not fair, right?
No, it's not.
Okay, there, is that better? Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah, it is really loud. So we're currently in the process of updating the town's webpage. And one of the things that has kind of come up is it's an opportunity to kind of refresh the way we refer to certain things. I figured we should probably have a chat about it before I just went ahead and did it. So one of the things that we were talking about in my department was kind of rebranding how we refer to ourselves in the community. So right now, the department is engineering and infrastructure. We have 31 full-time staff when we're fully staffed up and 1 engineer. So I think that it is probably a little bit misleading for the community in terms of what we actually do. And there's always going to be a technical component to the things that we need to do. But our responsibilities are maintaining the statutory planning stuff, working on development, business retention specialist, is gonna fall into our department. We've got public works, so road maintenance, water distribution maintenance, sewer collection stuff. We've got water treatment, wastewater treatment. We have long-term capital planning in our portfolio and the administration and management of capital projects. We don't actually do engineering as a service, like that's not a thing that my department is really responsible for. And so I think the community hears the word engineering and infrastructure and thinks we have a lot more capabilities internally than we actually do in that area. So with the webpage rebrand, I would like to have a little bit of a discussion and get some direction from council as to whether or not it seems appropriate, but referring to the department as infrastructure and development going forward. Development is kind of a key focus of us, our department going forward, where you guys are directing us to work on sort of economic development, looking at what we need to be doing in terms of planning for the next development in the community. And part of last year's mandate for CAO members and the recently signed one includes asset management as a priority for council. So by rebranding it from engineering and infrastructure to infrastructure and development, I think it aligns the words that we refer to ourselves as with the mandate you guys are looking for and strategic plans and things that we want to target. So I'm looking for some direction if you're in support of this before we roll it out publicly, and or if you want to hold on to engineering and infrastructure.
Deputy Mayor?
I absolutely love that you put the word development in there. Only if we're gonna back it, of course, and actually do some development. But I do like it. I like that much better than having it the way it was, the new way of. I think, like you say, it'll defines you a little better.
Any other comments? Councilor Good?
Just a question, and it's because of, when I see engineering and development together, to me, they're not really kind of, how would I put it, not obviously related to each other in a lot of ways. I mean, engineering to put a water plant in or to have a water plant repair or whatever is not necessarily going to engender development. So I'm wondering if it was called infrastructure and development.
Sorry, did I say engineering and
No,
development?
you said
Yes.
infrastructure.
I said-
It's gonna be infrastructure.
Yeah, it is
development.
gonna be infrastructure.
It's what he wants.
Sorry, I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
I hope I didn't screw that
Yeah,
up.
you didn't.
Oh, I'd like to do this and then screwed up what I referred to.
I'm gonna
So-
take a look at it, see if I read it totally wrong here, because it's certainly possible.
No, I was looking for infrastructure and development. So hearing that,
Okay, well,
perfect.
yeah, it was my confusion on the terminology and in the actual report, it was less obvious to me. And I'm not saying it was less obvious to anybody else. So, yeah, that makes it, those two things I think are related.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Someone would like to bring forth a motion on this matter?
Sure.
Councilor Scanlon?
I'll move the council indicate their general support for changing the engineering and infrastructure department name to infrastructure and development.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
He's already taken first base before the ball.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Next up, we have another new idea here, or new old, depending. Municipal Affairs Internship Program with Ms. Parsons.
Mayor Manzer and council. Yeah, it's kind of a new old idea. I know that the town has previously participated in the Municipal Affairs Internship Program, but that they stopped some years back, and we're proposing that we put in an application to participate once again. Basically, as it says in the report, it's an 18-month program that puts post-secondary graduates to introduce them to the municipal government world. So there's actually not a lot of streams or ways that people get introduced to municipal government, and whenever you go places, it's a lot of the time people just kind of fell into it. So this is a really good way to get young, ambitious professionals involved in the municipal government world. I've had lots of experience with this program in previous municipalities that I've worked with, and I've had nothing but good experiences with it. You're getting well-educated individuals who can bring you great work, and it doesn't cost the municipality as much because in order to participate, you have to get a grant. So the grant now, they have actually increased the grant amount since I've participated in the program to $60,000. So they give you $53,000 for compensation, including salary and benefits, and then $7,000 for expenses, travel costs, etc. if they want to go to a conference or do some further education while they're there. So that helps the municipality a little bit. It will still cost us some. It is recommended that you top up the salary a little bit more typically. And there just might be some need for additional travel funds, etc. with the 18-month program. But we would have better numbers of what we feel it would actually cost us if we were going to move forward with the application.
So I see in here that the application deadline is October 1 of 2024. So I assume that that means a little bit after that or months after that, you would actually know if they're successful.
So basically, yes, exactly. So how it goes is we apply in October, they assess our application, then they'll let us know if we were successful. If we're successful, then our name would get put with the program, and then the students that apply can either apply specifically to a municipality. I don't think that they have to. Some can just generally apply, or they can apply specifically. And then you get all of the resumes, you vet them, you set up your own interviews, you kind of select who you want, and hopefully they also want to come work with you. And then once they finish, usually they're graduating. So once they finish school in April, May, maybe June, then they would come and start working and begin the 18-month process.
Great. Counselors, questions? Okay, someone care to put forth a motion? Councillor Ford.
Thank you, Worship. I put a motion on the floor that council direct administration to bring the municipal affairs internship program forward to a future council meeting for consideration.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Great. Well, thank you, Ms. Parsons, and good luck with the application. Okay, next up, we have the Misery Mountain Ski Hill Condition Assessment with Mrs. Bell, who's assessing various things today.
These were thicker documents today. Your worship and council, the report before you is a infrastructure and condition assessment that was completed on the Ski Hill fixed assets located at the Misery Mountain. In the fall of 2023, a formal consulting company was confirmed and provided us with a walkthrough and review of all of the fixed assets at the site, and a detailed report that provides some life cycle assessment on all of those assets, which allows us and the nonprofit group to start discussing and putting in place some ideas and plans for longevity of how to maintain those assets, or how the organization, specifically the Peace River Ski Club, would like to look at developing some longer term maintenance plans, improvement plans, replacements, repairs, whatever the case may be, depending on the piece, the asset that we're looking at. Just a bit of a note, there are some recommendations for further reviews. For example, the chairlift is noted as a normal 50-year life cycle. They did not have a specific company that was able to provide them with detailed information on that piece of infrastructure. But it is 50+ years old, I believe, over 50 years. So there is some further investigation that would need to happen of how long and what would need to be done to extend the life of that particular asset. We are inquiring with the board to be able to sit down and review this document with them. It is something we want them to use for their own planning. So we are endeavoring to find a date that works with that particular group to see if we can review the document with them. But to date, they have not seen this particular report.
Well, I read it in some
Irish chicken.
detail, but I would definitely have to reread it.
It's, yeah, it's extensive. The next
Mhm.
one is also
Yeah.
extensive, maybe even more extensive.
Mhm. So there were several estimates of costs and so on in here, which was kind of nice to see. And was it, this one, it was cost in today's dollars, right? The pool
Correct.
was the other.
Yeah,
Okay,
yes, that
Um,
is correct.
okay, so counselors, any questions at this point in time? So, if we accept this recommendation, to a certain extent, this would be used as a basis of future planning, as you were saying.
Yeah.
Is there opportunity to share it with other councils and
Yes.
municipalities who?
I've already
expressed
had an
interest?
inquiry from one neighboring municipality. They saw it on our agenda and we made sure that they were able to access the document and the RFD, the briefing note along with it, and feel free to share it with their council. Another note is it is an incredibly useful document for applying for grants. So the Ski Hill Board can utilize the report or portions of the report as backup for any future grant applications. The pool, when we did this in 2009 or 2010, we applied for, at the time it was called the Major Facilities Grant, and we received over $500,000 or $600,000 based on the fact that we had a full condition assessment and followed the recommendations of what to upgrade, what to improve. So it is an extremely useful tool in making applications to different grant programs.
And it goes from 2024 all the way through 2043 for things.
For
but
some of
it's-
the elements, yes, yeah, for some of the elements it does provide. And again, a very useful tool for sort of their longer term planning on site. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get as detailed of a report as what we were hoping. There just was a real lack of information that was, an engineer would be required to use to make a full detailed analysis, so. But it's a good start.
Well, and some of it, if I'm remembering correctly, we required taking away plating and
Yes.
really digging
yeah.
through that.
As
part of
with
things.
any condition assessment, it's usually done visually or as far as they can go without destroying something to find out more about it. And that's where it's very useful to have maintenance records or other documentation. You'll see in the pool report, we were able to provide a lot of detailed backup information to help them put together a more detailed picture of where the condition of something would be at today and what its projected life would be based on its normal life.
Great. Counselors, any? Okay, would someone be prepared to put forth a motion on the matter? Deputy Mayor?
Propose that the council accept the Misery Mountain Ski Hill Condition Assessment for information.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay, and thank you, Mrs. Bell, for sort of supervising the whole process there, which looks rather major. And next up here, now we're going to talk to the next big asset management idea, the regional pool building condition assessment.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. This particular report is another extremely useful document. We did initiate it for a couple of reasons. One, as we were moving into the hot tub and the slide replacement projects, there was a conversation in regards to, is it worth investing, or what is the life cycle of the overall structure to ensure our investments, town tax dollars and grants and whatnot, this is a really good use of our funds. And the answer overall, based on this report, is I think so. The report is giving you no engineer is going to say definitively you're good to go for 20 years, because things can happen, earthquakes and such. However, the report does provide you with a very, very solid, bright future for the facility for the next 10, 15, 20 years, if we continue to maintain and invest and put the effort financially and otherwise into the structure to keep it in good working order. This facility, I believe, is probably one of our best overall maintained structures in the community. To date, over its life cycle, we have invested significant dollars. It's an expensive building to maintain. Water, water and wastewater to the test, is not always our friend and does things to structures. But in this particular case, if we keep maintaining it as we have been, we'll be in good form to keep it in solid standing for at least another 20 years. There are some immediate actions, and your administration is already proceeding to address those. The gas distribution piping, some replacement is already in order. And we are looking at shutting down for one day to get some of that work done. They're just trying to find the best day to not be open to address that. And that's being done within the next month or so. The piping insulation, we're looking at doing that. It will be done during shutdown. And we're also addressing the corrosion in the storage room. And we'll be shoring that up. And then our longer term plan on the fix will come with the slide project. And we're just deciding whether we do the fix separate from the slide. Do we fix first and then replace the slide, or are we going to package it all together into one project? But again, this gives us a very clear direction for the next 10 years of what to address for maintenance, repairs, replacements. There are some suggestions for some further investigations, so they do give us some very high numbers, but maybe we have other options that are a little more cost effective, but they give us the sort of worst case scenario.
That sounds like I don't know, poignant pause.
Not intended, sorry.
Okay, so one thing I spied and thought was rather interesting. So it said the total projected cost over 10-year period would be about 4.8 million. And that maintains, like you say, to the, well, hopefully the 20-year time frame. But if we were to suddenly decide we had the wherewithal to build a new aquatic facility, it would cost 25 to 35 million. Which is interesting because the Baytex cost when it was built was
25 all in with demolition
Yeah.
also of the old structure.
and that's now how many years ago?
That was 2019.
Yeah,
So
so
yeah,
5 years or
almost
so.
5. Yeah.
Okay, counselors, questions?
Well,
Counselor Good.
I'm just doing some simple math because I deal in large numbers, so you're looking about $5 million over 10 years roughly.
Roughly.
So by my simple math, that makes it roughly 250,000 a year over the 20, if you extend it out. That's assuming no other expenditures over the 20 years. You're looking at 250,000. 250,000 a year, which means that to maintain and operate the pool, independent of staffing, running, water, etc., any other expenditures, your minimal cost to the taxpayer, the community is going to be about $250,000 a year. Am I wrong? Over the
Correct.
next 20 years?
Yeah, so we're looking at with
That's barring
operating,
inflation, barring
Yeah.
anything else.
barring anything else. Our existing operating budget, you're probably at a 1.2 million. Yeah, per year total.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have to look at those numbers because that's a substantial amount of dollars.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying it's not worth it. But I think that that's the reality. That's prior to your operating costs,
Yes.
you know, so that.
Well, and I think we'll need to be a little careful with that because some of these expenses are built into, some of the maintenance would be part of the operating. Some of it would be capital. It depends on where it moves. And for example, our current operating budget, and I don't have this in front of me, so I did to verify it. I'd have to actually look, but we're probably in a range of about 50,000 to 75,000 within the operating for maintenance items.
Okay.
So some of that potentially would overlap into this suggested
I
amount.
wouldn't mind when it comes back, if
Yeah.
we could have maybe a bit of more detail on. Because I agree with you, you could have some of this may be covering maintenance that's already planned, already done, already booked for, et cetera, and included in your operating costs. Good. I just think could be in there, so I wouldn't mind seeing those numbers kind of a bit more clearly or understanding them a bit better, that's all.
Sure. The other thing to note, within the 2025 year, within the report, they've also included the slide replacement, which we've already booked in terms of our capital planning. So quite a number of the expected projects within their report, they're already, yeah, correct. They're already within our 5-year capital planning.
If you could bring that all in
Yeah.
there, so we can take a look and
Sure.
this $10 million and
Yeah.
$20 million.
Yeah.
This $10 million is already, we're already counting for X amount of it, so then your
Yes.
additional expenses would only be the remainder.
Yes, sure.
Thanks.
Any other comments?
I think 20 years is good news.
I think it's very good news.
Like.
Yeah.
We were fearing 10 or less.
Less, yes. Even 10 would have been the point threshold for a very in-depth conversation. 20 allows everyone, I think, to breathe a little bit, not take the pedal off the gas, as it were. Maybe you could ease it off, but we do need to put in place a process to start looking at planning in, let's say, 5+ years from now. I think we need to focus on fixing what we need to fix over the next 5 years and then start looking at that long-term replacement planning. But some of your whole process around asset management now, or will be, once it's fully in place, that will be your solid planning tool. So it's not you shouldn't be in a position, let's say 5-10 years from now, where you're going, we need to replace. That's your asset management planning will help your administration, council, and the community to understand when your trigger points are to start doing your long-term planning and financial planning for those new assets.
But this is good news for us when we go to talk to our neighboring municipalities
Yes.
and users and everything, like, okay, so this is the horizon we're
Yep.
looking at. And, those discussions can start happening as to, okay, so all 4 or 5 of us, or however many you're counting in, all of
Yes.
us, can start saying, okay, we're gonna put this is gonna go here, and when we are, ready, we very easily could have all this in place in 15 years if we started now, or.
Whenever, yes. I think the other really valuable tool that this document provides council and administration is that longer term financial commitment to this facility, or short term even, let's focus on the next 5 years. We have a focus. And that can be very valuable, especially when we're getting requests for other developments, and there's always a fight for those very few dollars. So this tells you very clearly what our commitment to this facility needs to be if you'd like to maintain it and get those 20 years out of it. We're not guessing. And it's not sort of a we think we might. We know, we have a very clear plan forward for this facility, so we know what we need to plan for financially.
And it lands us over 50 years.
Which
is,
is pretty good for a pool. And that 25 to 35 million dollar budget 10 years from now, I can't even conceptualize what that might be.
Probably won't begin, right, 25 to 35
Yeah.
million. I think Spruce Grove is actually building a new pool facility right now, and I feel like their budget is in the 40s or 50s.
Probably, yeah, especially
I think.
size. It's gonna be amenities within it and size and a lot of the facilities are attached to something else, so it's very difficult to get an amount of a facility that is not high levels. Mackenzie County was 90 million, but that was with a field house and arenas, like multiple different other components, so.
Any other comments? Okay, well, very nice to see this study. And realizing, of course, that with any study, there's always some hidden thing that comes up no matter
Somebody
what,
didn't
or
find
unexpected,
something, yeah.
unexpected.
But again, another really excellent tool for grant applications. This makes my work a little bit easier.
Yeah, that shovel-ready aspect. of
That's
things,
right,
too.
yeah.
Okay, would someone care to put forth a motion on this topic? Counselor Good?
I'll move that council accept the Peace Regional Condition Assessment for information.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Thank you. All those in favor? Great, it is carried. And this too is one that can be shared with our neighboring municipalities.
Yes,
Yeah.
one has already requested, so we
Great.
have, yeah.
Good, that there's interest out there, shall we say. Okay, we had a new item added to new business, notice of motion. Councillor Ford is going to read that.
Yes, thank you. You just want me to read the motion or do you want some background or just read the motion? Okay, I had sent administration and council a notice of motion. I moved to direct administration to bring the Apex Security business proposal to the next council meeting for discussion.
Okay, it's been read into the minutes. There's no debate on that. And administration, that's it, right? Yeah, okay, thank you. Okay, next up, we have reports, and the first one up is the 2023 Peace Library System Annual Report, and I sit on this board. Couple things I'll point out. If you look at the e-resources in this, it's amazing the number of checkouts that our library system has. And so our own town library data would be included in this. So the e-magazines, the Overdrive, which I understand is another aspect, Press Reader, any magazine you want to read, Cloud Library, Lincoln Learning, and Ancestry, which, you know, I know in our local library does get quite a bit of interest. So upwards of 117,000 for the Overdrive, and the rest are listed there. Other things that you might pay attention to are the pie graphs over on the next page, and basically how our money is spent. And at the library system in Grand Prairie, that office, which also sends out couriers to the libraries within our library region, about 52% is spent on personnel, and about 35% is spent on the province of Alberta. Well, I'm looking at it backwards. 52% of the revenue goes to personnel, and the province of Alberta grants and so on count for about 35%. And I think at the next council meeting, we might have our audited report ready to include as well. So it's a busy place and it's well used. Any questions on that item? Next up, we have the May 22nd, 2024 RCMP Peace Regional Community Advisory Committee meeting minutes. And Councillor Ford, anything you want to highlight here?
Yeah, just brief and short, we have the Locker Leader program going to be running in Grimshaw on the 8th. Also, we had it scheduled for the 27th in St. Isidore and Nampa. That unfortunately had to be postponed just to do, because of everything that's going on within the RCMP's jurisdiction. We don't have enough staff to do that. So it's being rescheduled. And if people have the time under reports, 9.1, if you can take the time to read the report from Constable Arthur Sunday, who's our new liaison officer in the schools. He's got a great project that's coming out for all the youth, and there's a bunch of activities that are going to be coming up now, between now and the end of summer, which is great to hear. And then I did the report on to the committee in regards to the government decision and the camping bylaw, et cetera. And that's it.
Great. Any questions of Councillor Ford? Would someone like to move the acceptance of these reports? Councillor Carr moves that council accept reports 9.1 and 9.2 for information.
Yes.
That's what you did? Great. Okay, all those in favor? Thank you. Very good. Information item, we have the council communication package of May 24th. And a couple of things, local things to bring to mind here. The third item, Peace River High School's graduating class of 2024 invites the town mayor to speak. And I will be away this weekend, so Councillor Ford has kindly said that he is able to attend that, which is great. And the powwow happened this last weekend. I attended, our speeches. There was quite a few people there, probably 200 to 300, I would say. And another thing that came to mind in these, the subscriptions, BC Hydro Site C reports that they're still planning on filling the dam starting later this fall. Anybody else want to bring up any item from the communication items? Okay. There was something else I think we had. Okay. Would someone move that council accept item 10.1 for information?
So
Councillor Ford so moves. All those in favor? Great, it was carried. Key communication items. Council? What is your thoughts?
Changing the name of the engineering department, now, I think that's a big move. It might not sound like a big move, but I like putting that development in there.
Great. Okay. We've had the town accepted the Economic Development Committee report and the Ballard report. I don't know if the Ballard strategy will eventually go on the website for people to look at. Great. Okay. The assessment reports for both the ski hill and the pool are worthwhile reading, I'm sure, for many people. And there was a chart presented with the pool one, I think. And it's get out your spyglass to be able to read the thing, but it's fairly detailed. Okay, anything else though? Okay, then what else we gotta do here? Closed session, we don't have anything. Adjournment.
Will the council adjourn the meeting at 6:03 PM?
Lovely. All those in favor? Great, that is carried. Thank you.
Seems good.
Thank you, Jasmine.